Whew, it is hot. Hello, cats and dogs. It's like a pajama party. This is a takeoff of Sleepy Sunday. Not my idea, but taking off on it. I am really sweating. I think I'm having hot flashes. Today I want to talk about something that I think is important, and that's credit cards. I have thought about a bunch of things that I wish that somebody had taught me when I was younger, or growing up in school, or any of the above, about things that would happen in adulthood that I felt like I was unprepared for. This world is really fucked up, and you need to know shit when you become an adult. And I feel like our society very much gears us to be like, oh, someone will take care of you, you'll be okay. And then you get to adulthood and you're like, wait, what the fuck? I didn't know that hair grew there. I didn't know that milk was $4 and minimum wage is like $9. So how am I supposed to get my Captain Crunch? Real life struggles of the American adult. And if you don't live at home, obviously there are a lot more struggles that come with that. Why did I say it like that? So credit cards. One of the things that I learned in school was how to solve X, and I'm pretty sure that I have never solved X after college. I think the only useful skill that I learned from school was how to hand stitch something, and that was from a home ec class, which was discontinued the year after I took it because our school ran out of funding to keep doing home ec. I once had a teacher who, if you were even like 5 seconds late, I'm not joking, 5 seconds late to class, she would make you go to detention and she wouldn't let you come into the class at all. And she would sit there with her timer. And sometimes she was a twat. So school, it was all a bunch of bullshit. There's nothing really that you learn in high school that you ever need to know for your adult life. And then college kind of perpetuates this crime where your first 2 years you're retaking all of this shit that you took in high school that you don't need to know. Like, I don't need to learn how to solve X. I am not going to be a mathematician. I don't need to know about the biology of a squirrel, and I don't need to dissect a cat. I own a cat, and this is traumatic for me to dissect this thing. I'm going to not show up to class. And then you take all these things that you don't need to know in life, and you say, I really want to do this thing. And nobody teaches you how to get to do that thing. You just kind of have to figure it out on your own. So it's all like nonsense. But then you get into adulthood and you need money for things. Like, unless you're living off of the land from a very young age and you don't need your parents to help you with anything, you're probably set. But for most of us, we live at home for a while. I lived at home till I was like 20. There's some people I know who have been living at home all their lives, and they're like almost 30. So we very much are geared into this kind of culture where you stay at home for a really long time and then one day you're just not, and you think, I'll make it on my own, I'll be okay. But here's the problem, is that money keeps going away to places that you don't need it to, like Social Security. That could be spent on toilet paper, or top ramen, or lube. Then you have all this taxes and stuff, and if you're in the really low bracket, you're getting taxed like $30, which is still pretty big. Like, that could buy you groceries for a week if you are thrifty. It could get you some healthy food that we're supposed to be eating on a daily basis. There's like a food pyramid of food that you're supposed to be eating, and if you're just eating top ramen and half slices of peanut butter and jelly, that is not healthy food. And then you have this thing where you have to pay rent, and rent is awful, and you think, how am I supposed to pay this? I work 8 hours at McDonald's, and I now have a $400 rent check that I have to give to my roommate who owns this giant house, and I can't pay that. I always thought that credit cards were evil because my parents were very much like, we are not doing debt. But they also had like really well-paying jobs, and they had been being well paid for a very long time. So they didn't really need credit by the time that I was old enough to understand what credit was. But my parents did get into a lot of credit card debt when they were younger so that they could get to where they are now. The thing is that money went a lot farther than it did then. So like a $5,000 limit went for like probably a year. And in this day and age, it could probably last you like 4 months, depending on what you're using it for. Don't buy porn with your credit cards. So I always thought that credit cards were bad. I never thought that they were a good thing, but I didn't understand why. The misconception with credit cards is that it's not free money. You are borrowing money from someone who is graciously giving it to you at an expense. So think of it like they are stabbing you in the side with a knife and you are bleeding out. And if you don't give them their money back, they will not hospitalize you and get your bloody wound taken care of. That's what credit card debt is. That's what loans are. That's what the federal government is. You're borrowing money from somebody. Either you are borrowing it from a respectable credit agency or you are borrowing it from a seedy loan person who, you know, puts those little cards on your window when you're parked at the McDonald's and it says call us and you'll get 10,000 free dollars. And it's like call for interest rates and shit. Those ones don't go to. Go to a bank. If you can't get a credit card from a bank, there's a reason and you don't need a credit card. So what happens when you get a credit card is whoever you're getting it from will usually do a check of your credit score. Now if you have never had credit before, if you've never made payments on anything like a computer or a car or a house or anything that would come in adulthood that somehow they expect you to have when you are not in adulthood, then you probably will get a very low credit limit. If you, however, have been paying like rent, because that does help, or if you have student loans you've been paying off or whatever, like you can get a higher limit. And they always will check your credit score before they will give you a card because they want to see, are you someone who they're going to be like, here's $500 and then you are never going to pay it back and you're going to like disappear to the Gulf of Mexico and like swim to an island like wherever is closest to you at that point, and then you'll just never pay them. Or maybe they'll give you a big sum of money, like thousands and thousands of dollars, and you're just gonna like rack up the debt all the way to the end and max it out, and then you're gonna be like, sorry, I don't have any money. Or are you gonna be somebody that they can be like, here's a bunch of money, and then you're gonna pay it off like right away, and they can be like, ah yes, we're raising your limit to $10,000 now, spend more. Because what a bank gets when you do your credit and everything is that you are promising to pay them back interest. So that helps them. They can put their money into things to keep growing their bank and they can keep getting money. They're saying here's $500, but you are giving us like $700 by the end of your term. So that means we have $200 free we didn't have to do anything for. So now we can invest that in Sean Cody porn and make back some money for our bank so that we can continue to give out more money to people who want to invest in us so that we can invest in more porn. They're probably not investing in porn, it's a narrative. Follow along. So the important thing with credit cards to know is that whatever you are getting, always understand what your APR is. And I did not understand what an APR was for the longest time until I researched it. APR stands for annual percentage rate. So basically what that means is how much money in interest you are going to be paying back. Now I don't understand math at all. There's a reason why I got a C- and I was this close to failing out of college algebra. I was literally 0.05 away from failing out of college algebra and needing to do it again. Percentages killed me. My final test was 80% percentages and I don't even know how much 80% of that test was. I'm going to do it in a number that I can understand, which is 100, because 100% and all that bullshit. So let's say that a bank is going to give you $100. That is the lowest credit limit, and you probably are being told that you don't need a credit card, that they don't even trust you with $100. That's like nothing. That is chump change. You could make that, you know, open up your asshole at the freeway and bending over and being like, toll road, drive right through. So they give you $100 and they say your APR is 30% because we really fucking don't trust you with this money. You need to give us a lot of money back. 30% APR is ridiculous, and if you ever have a 30% APR, give them both fingers and be like, I'm gonna go somewhere else, or I'm gonna build my credit for a little bit with another bank or something, because 30% is just too much and I will not do that. I would personally say never do more than 22. 22 is like ridiculously expensive. So what that means is over the course of your annual time, you will accrue 30% interest. And I believe that's like kind of split up throughout the year. So whatever you get, you know, whatever your payments are, like let's say your first month's payment is $10, you're going to be paying 30% more of that $10. So your payment would be 10, and then 30% of 10 would be $3 more. So you would be paying, I can do math, then your amount that you're owing them is now $13 and not 10. So you have to pay $13 every single month until your $100 is paid off. Now that is only assuming that you maxed out your card and you spent your $100. If you only spend like $5 and you buy a stick of gum and that's all you need it for, is so that you can buy like some royalties like every once in a while, you know, like gum, porn, lube, a princess wand from the dollar store, you will only be paying 30% of whatever you spent. So if you bought a pack of gum for $5, which is also ridiculous, you should not be spending $5 for gum, then you will be paying 30% of $5 in addition to your $5 when you make your payment back, or whatever your minimum payment is. Your minimum payment is also an important factor to be thinking about, because if your limit is a certain number, you want to make sure that your payment is something you can pay off. Now always be paying attention to what that payment is. It'll usually say, when you get your form that says you are pre-qualified for a credit card, it'll tell you how much you have to pay back to them. So if you have a limit of $100 and they say your minimum payment each month is $2, that's really good for you, because that means you could be doing the toll road at the side of the freeway and opening your asshole and letting cars drive through and charging them $1 as they drive through you. Then you will only have to pay $2. So you only need 2 cars to drive through you and take your asshole toll road. Or you could be working at the McDonald's, you know, making like $9 or $10, whatever minimum wages in your city, state, province, area, and you will have $10 to your name every hour that you work. Say you only work 10 hours in the week, that's $80. You max out your credit card to $100, you only have to pay $2 each month, with the 30% interest rate, of course. Now there's all these numbers and I'm throwing it at you. Just remember, APR is important. You don't want to do a too high APR. One of the best ones, if you can find an APR that is 10.99, that is lovely. Just make sure that you do your homework and you do a lot of research and you really find out what is going to be best for you. Because if you have a very low paying, low hour job and you really need a credit card, which is so important at some points in your life, and you don't have a lot of money, you don't want to be paying your entire check to be paying off your credit card. Does that make sense? Now a lot of people think that credit is evil, and it's not. Because sometimes you really just need that extra push. Like you can't pay your gas bill, or you can't buy food at the grocery store, or maybe you need gas really, really bad and you have no money to your name. You will have money in 7 days when your check clears, but you don't have money now, so you really need that credit card. Credit card is important for stuff like that. Don't ever rely on a credit card to be like, oh, I can pay my rent with my credit card. Swipe. I can go and buy this thing with my credit card. Swipe. And then you are never paying it off and you just like pay the minimum. Make sure you are paying as much as you possibly can. If you can pay big numbers to pay off your credit card, if you're like swiping it like a crazy person, pay it off as fast as you possibly can, because you do not want that debt increasing. Because what that ends up meaning is that, you know, over the course of time, you're paying back so much more. Like with that $100 reference, you have to pay back $13 every month. Over that whole course of time, you've now paid $36 that you did not have to. If you had paid off your $100 maxed out credit card within your first 2 months, you would have only been paying $6 extra, right? Yes, because your minimum payment would be 10, so plus 3. All numbers, it's crazy, I don't get it. Maybe you do. You're paying more money the longer you hold off on paying your credit card, because you have to pay that interest rate every single time. Now, final thought before we wrap all this up, because I know I've taken a lot of your time and I apologize to you. It's very important that you have credit if you're going to get a car someday, or if you're going to get a house. Now there are a lot of financial people that will say, you don't need a credit card, you don't need credit to buy a house or pay for a car. But you really need a fucking good paying job, which do not exist anymore. The people that could just go up to a realtor and say, I want to buy this house, here's a check for the $550,000 that it's gonna take to buy this 1-bedroom house and pay off everything, are people that are working like super high up CEO jobs that don't need credit because they could buy your town. Like that. Like that. And so if you are a young person who does not work one of those executive CEO jobs and you just work minimum wage, credit cards are important for getting to that end goal, because if you ever want to own a car or own a house, they're going to check your credit. And make sure that you are paying back your credit cards so that you are building your credit, because the longer you stall and the longer you wait to pay that off and you just keep accruing interest and keep showing that you are unreliable at paying your debt, the lower your score goes, and you want it to be pretty high. And I think like 800 something is like a really magical number, and like 400 is a really bad number. So think higher. Pay off your credit cards. Pay off your debt. It's not free money. Good luck. Thank you all for watching. See you all next time. Bye!